Now, Amy Edmondson is the foremost researcher on psychological safety. She's the one who's done most of the heavy lifting over the last 20 years. And she talks about 4 interpersonal risks. There are many more, but the core of them are the risk that if you ask a question, you could be viewed as ignorant or stupid. And you saw stupid appeared on that list earlier on. That if you made a mistake, that people might think you're incompetent. If you question the way we do things, you could be seen as negative. And that if you ask for feedback, you could be seen as or considered as being intrusive. So every day we find ourselves in situations where we are called upon to take interpersonal risks. And I heard an interview with her a while ago, and she used an expression I had never heard before, but I believe it's common in the United States. And she said, and nobody wants to be the skunk at the picnic. That is a lovely expression, because nobody wants to say something that stinks. Nobody wants to say something that draws attention, unwanted attention to them. And this is what is at the core of psychological safety. At the core of psychological safety is the security to know that you can take those interpersonal risks. It's psychological safety is a belief held by you and other members of a team that it's safe to take those risks. It's a sense of confidence that speaking up won't result in rejection, punishment, embarrassment by the members of the team. And it's a team environment of respect and interpersonal trust where people feel comfortable being themselves. And that's the way Amy Edmondson describes it. And it's a great book. If you want to dive deep into psychological safety, she's some great research in there. It's very, very accessible. It's not big on the how-to, but it's really good on the research side. The guy that I like most in this space is a guy called Timothy Clark. And he's a real roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty guy. He has a wonderful way of defining psychological safety. He says it's the sense that you can be yourself without social, political, economical, or emotional costs. Now, just think about that. Now, we're talking mostly about the world of work, but this is the world of people. This is in your social connections, in your family connections, in every interaction you have with people. So let's unpack first off your experience with psychological safety. We've already started to do a little bit of that. And what I want to demonstrate to you here today, and I'll tell you right up front what I want to demonstrate to you, is that you cannot create a psychologically safe environment without giving people emotional intelligence skills, without giving them skills to show up to one another in a way that makes people feel safe, because we don't instinctively know how to create psychologically safe workplaces, even if we want to. So let's go back in time. I want you to think of somebody who made you feel or makes you feel psychologically safe. And ideally, let's think of it in a work environment, but it doesn't have to be work. It can be a personal environment. And just so that it gets you thinking about that person and bringing them into your mind, write their name or their initials down. I'm not going to ask you to share that. And just think of somebody around whom you find it easy to say what might turn out to be stupid things, to ask silly questions, to stumble and fall on your face and so on. Okay, so think of that person. And here's what I want you to do is think about that person and think of, when you're around them, how do they make you feel? So again, give me 3 words. What are the first 3 words that come into your mind when you think of how do these people make you feel? So the poll on the screen there should have changed, and you should be able to pop that in. So somebody that you can be absolutely yourself. You're not, what's the word I'm looking for? Censoring yourself. You're not taking your words out and looking at them and making sure they're the right ones. There we go. Okay, so we're starting to see it. And this is really important, because this is the intersection I'm going to show you of psychological safety and emotional intelligence, because it all revolves around the 2 questions I'm asking you here. So you can see that they made you feel, let me just move that video out of the way. You can see that they make you feel relaxed, comfortable, confident, safe, calm, valued, warm, powerful, authentic, and all of these words that are piling out. And they're all of the words I bet that you hope that people say is the impact that you have upon them. You hope that the ones you love and the ones you work with and the ones you care for and everybody you meet feels that way when you're interacting with them and when you're around them. So what I'd also suggest to you is you've brought that person into your mind. You're talking about the way you felt. Just for a moment, drop down into your body and just notice, how does it feel? And I'd suggest that in all likelihood, it feels kind of loose, it's kind of relaxed, it's warm, it's kind of nice and fuzzy. It's pretty good. Well, we're going to screw with that right now. We're going to mess that up for you, because I want you to think of somebody, and let's think of the person who made you feel most psychologically unsafe. If it was a previous boss, that's probably the ideal, because we're talking about work environments, but it doesn't have to be. It could be somebody where you take your words out of your mouth, you look at them, you make sure that they're right ones, and then you put them out there, that you watch your P's and Q's and so on. And again, tell me, first 3 words, how does that person make you feel? Tense, there you go. Angry. Wow, look at that. Intimidated, insignificant, anxiety. And you know what's wonderful about these words? I don't know about you, but I can actually manage to feel anxious, tense, upset, uncomfortable, miserable, critical of myself, ugly, weird, insecure, all on my own. I actually don't need anybody's help for that. I can get myself there, no problem, consistently on a daily basis if I want to. We don't need the help of other people to feel that way. Now, what you're looking at here, and if we had more time to dive into this, if we had an hour and a half, I'd go much deeper on this. But this is what you're looking at here is fundamentally the overriding definition of emotional intelligence. Now, if you've read all of the books on emotional intelligence, you probably have technical and academic descriptions of them, but it all comes back to this Maya Angelou quote and back to a mantra I'm going to share with you in a moment. You can forget about all of the complicated academic technical descriptions of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a science really of how you make people feel. And you think of that person who made you feel psychologically unsafe. And if I had phrased it, which I should have in retrospect, if I had phrased it, think of the person who in your life who made you feel most psychologically unsafe in your entire life. I bet if I came back in 5 years' time, you'd probably still be picking on the same person. At least I hope you are. I hope you don't meet anybody who's worse than that. But you'd probably pick on the same person because, as Maya Angelou said here, people never forget how you made them feel. So at the core, this is my walking, practical definition of emotional intelligence. You can let everything else fall away. Now, of course, it's self-awareness and awareness of others, it's authenticity, it's emotional reasoning, and it's all those things. But that's the detail. Emotional reasoning is about having an absolute innate sense that the way you show up matters. Because the way you show up determines the way people feel. Look at the 2 people that you looked at there. The way that they showed up, the behaviors that you experienced them demonstrating determines in large part the way you feel. And that determines in large part the extent to which, not just that you will engage, but that you can engage. And I'll show you why I say can engage in a moment, because we'll do a little bit of the neuroscience around this. So, and the extent that determines in large part the extent to which you can engage. And that impacts pretty much everything about the outcome of that relationship. So if you want to think of what is emotional intelligence, you want to explain emotional intelligence to your 10-year-old, it's about understanding that the way you behave, the way you show up, the things you say, the way you interact with people matters, because it determines the way you make them feel. And the most robust finding in the social sciences is the way we feel affects everything. It affects our mood, it affects the decisions we make, it affects our productivity, it affects everything. So the core of emotional intelligence is understanding the way I show up matters and choosing how I show up. That's emotional intelligence.